How did East Germany view Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg? Well, in Berlin there's this giant block in Potsdamer Platz. It is the unfinished monument to Karl Liebknecht, so unfinished because it was inconvenient to do so when the Berlin Wall made it inaccessible to East Germans. You can find memory to Rosa and Karl cutting through Berlin, from Rosa Luxemburg Platz to the sites of their murders, to murals, to a symbolic burial at the heart of the memorial to the socialists. But how were they held in East German memory? Well, not at the same level as the KPD that came after them. They were martyrs, but they weren't philosophers. Karl Liebknecht was viewed as, I think the best way to translate it would be as a pioneer of socialism, and Rosa Luxemburg similarly held a truncated position in East German memory. It's important to remember that Karl and Rosa's views weren't tightly compatible with Marxism-Leninism. In fact, Rosa Luxemburg held some heavy disagreements with Lenin, and these would be turned against the East German state during the annual march to commemorate their deaths in 1988. The famous 1926 monument to the revolution wasn't rebuilt, but its spiritual successor contains symbolic graves for the both in the memorial to the socialists. The bodies being elsewhere, it's a very long and depressing story. And that's the thing, they were martyrs, but they weren't viewed as right. Almost from the day that Rosa's body was thrown into the Landwehr Canal, there was a fight over what their memory in society should be, both to disavow their thinking on communism, while claiming Rosa's legacy as a militant fighter for the worker. As Hannah Arendt more than implies, this fight was the true birth of what East Germany would remember as the KPD. And that narrative largely was that Rosa Luxemburg had been wrong, that she had ultimately set the KPD up into a losing position that they did not come out of until after the Second World War, which coincidentally or not was where the Socialist Unity Party was able to tie their legitimacy to. Yet, they had put themselves on the line for the working class, and that memory had to be honored, just as important as it was that their philosophies were ignored as being incompatible with the state. Rosa Luxemburg's complete writings were even available in East Germany until the 1970s, largely because they had been growing very popular in a different Germany. Which brings me back to this gigantic block in Potsdamer Platz. The memory of Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg was vitally important to how the East German state saw itself, until it became inconvenient for them.